Colorado sparking fierce debate here on the Intelligence Report. The Cargill meat plant that we told you about yesterday, it's under fire for laying off 200 Muslim workers after they walked off the job for 3 days unannounced. The walkout came after a group of 11 Muslim workers all asked to pray at the exact same time. The company said, you know what, you can go and pray, but you got to do it in a smaller group so as not to disrupt business. I mean, we are talking about a factory line, an assembly line here where everybody needs to do their part. Well, you know, it sounds fair, right? Well, apparently not to those 11 workers. They're pretty upset. They quit. And in turn, nearly 200 other Muslim workers didn't show up for work for 3 whole days. So the company fired them. We asked the workers' representative about this on yesterday's show, and he told me the company's fudging the facts. Listen to this.
There was something that did change on the 18th that resulted in not just 11 people walking out, but nearly 200 walking out.
Yeah, well, not just walking out. Let's talk about that for a second, because these are employees that effectively just said, we're not coming to work. They didn't show up for work for 3 days.
That's not how it happened. These employees requested to talk to the supervisor after that day, where many of them did not pray. And in their conversation with their supervisor, they were told that their religious accommodations, which they've been used to being accommodated for, will no longer be accommodated for. And then they tried to seek some clarification. Now, if there was an incident that happened before,
so
it would be a little more
instead of seeking the clarification, they just didn't come to work the next day, though. In fact, they didn't come to work for the next 3 days. Okay. The Intelligence Report did talk to Cargill again, and Cargill insists that the workers actually were able to pray that day, that this representative is not being completely forthcoming with that, and that actually 11 workers did want to all pray together. Well, joining me with some analysis and some perspective on all this is Jasser, the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, who has been following this story right from the beginning. Zudi, good to see you. You've had some interesting commentary on this. You basically say they're marching themselves to the unemployment line. Why?
Yeah, not just the workers themselves, but these groups like CARE that claim to speak for our community are taking
Let me jump in,
Zudi,
just to explain to our viewers that that was a CARE representative that they just saw on television, a CARE representative who represents these nearly 200 Muslim workers who want their jobs back.
A CARE representative, Trish, that descended on them from Minnesota, which has the largest subpopulation of Somalis, a CARE representative who's been obstructing our Department of Justice and Homeland Security work in Minnesota, saying that they're spying on their community when they're trying to do their work. Jailani Hussein is on record as saying they don't want those monitors, while we've had the largest population of Somalis going to serve Shabab, going to serve ISIS. Over 40 have gone there. So their technique is to tell Muslims that they need to separate from community, not to adapt and assimilate. And by the way, I pray 5 times a day. I served in the military praying. I took my break just like anyone who needs breaks for medical conditions, for anything else. The issue is, and by the way, the EEOC ruled about this in a JBS case back in 2008, in which the EEOC lost, and the judge said that the meatpacking plant did not have to accommodate anything undue that would be undue to the employer. So they're just barking up the wrong tree. It's been lost. They're taking these poor Somali immigrants that are vulnerable to exploitation, and they marched them right into the unemployment line. Now, are they going to get them their jobs back? They didn't show up for work for 3 days. What's the plant going to do? They had to let them go, and they were basically
rehiring other people.
And CARE put out a fundraising memo at the end of 2015, just a few weeks ago, saying we are representing Muslims who were fired because they couldn't pray. They're being dishonest in the fundraising memos, using these poor Muslims to make money for their own self-righteous ambulance chasing, when in fact it's not serving our community, and it's actually radicalizing Muslims, separating them, actually not helping them theologically, because theologically the prayer time can be flexible. You don't have to pray in groups of 11. You can pray in groups of 2 or even by yourself. This so-called mandate for theology, I can tell you as a Muslim, every Muslim I've talked to said, you know, you have a window of prayer for noon prayer from 12:30 to 4 o'clock. You can pray anytime there. From 4 to sunset, you can pray anytime there. There's a lot of Muslims at that plant. A quarter of them are Muslims at that plant, so they can't just all walk off.
So this is basically community activists in the Muslim community, CARE, trying to basically create a controversy for their own attention, for their own I don't know what, because they seem to be hurting themselves in the process. I mean, Zudi, think about it. If you're Cargill, you might want to think twice before hiring another Muslim from that community for fear they're going to do the same thing and insist they have to pray at this time with 11 people 5 times a day. I mean, it doesn't give a business a lot of flexibility.
And that's what breaks my heart as an American Muslim, is that these organizations are not only radicalizing our community by separating them out, but telling America that we can't assimilate, despite our theology and our faith practice personally, into societies, into work environments that every other faith does. And we can be faithful Muslims and not demand special rights that no other faith asks for. And yet CARE makes it seem like somehow these Muslims had their rights taken away and they marched off. And by the way, this isn't a tempest that came out of nowhere. There are reports in the Denver Post back from 2009, 2011, where these workers have been accommodated by Cargill. So this isn't a new controversy. What happened is someone said that they had to all of a sudden walk out and then not show up for work for 3 days, which
well, and
I'm
you
trying
can
to figure
imagine
out
that was orchestrated by somebody who wanted to get some attention for it. Anyway, Zudi Jasser, thank you so much. Good to have your perspective, as always.
Thanks, Trish.